In this session, we're going to walk through the complete life cycle of a UAE construction contract from the tender stage all the way to the taking over certificate and beyond. Think of it as an experience of planning and contracts, engineers sitting beside you explaining how time, cost securities, payment and completion all connect on a real Dubai project. One important principle before we begin. Do not treat every procedure or percentage in this video as universally applicable. The actual requirements always depend on the executed contract, the particular conditions, the employer's requirements, and applicable UAE requirements. Here's the journey. We'll start at the tender, move through the letter of intent, the letter of award, and the contract agreement. We'll cover the securities and insurance, the advance payment, materials on site, interim payment certificates, retention, and advance recovery. Then the notice to commence the baseline program, construction administration, testing and commissioning, the taking over certificate, and finally close out.
And throughout, keep that one caveat in mind: the exact procedures, percentages, and timeframes depend on your specific contract.
Section 1. The tender stage. It begins with the employer issuing a tender invitation and the tender documents. The contractor reviews them, but then prepares a technical submission and a commercial submission. Clarifications are exchanged, the tenders are evaluated, there may be negotiation, and finally, a preferred contractor is selected. This stage is critical because the price, the scope, and the time are all fixed here. Every figure agreed at tender flows straight into the contract, the program, and every future claim. So what is the contractor actually pricing? The tender documents typically include the instructions to tenderers and the form of tender, the conditions of contract, both the general and the particular conditions, the employer's requirements and specifications, the drawings, the bill of quantities and pricing schedules, and the appendix to tender, which carries the key contractual figures and dates. Read them together. The particular conditions in particular can change the standard position significantly, as we've seen in other videos. Now, the planning engineer's role at tender, because time is price here, not later. You study the tender program requirements in the contract, prepare the tender program and identify the time for completion and the key milestones. You build the construction methodology and sequence, prepare resource and manpower histograms, and identify long lead procurement and constructability risks. You flag the program assumptions and qualifications, and you support the commercial team with the time-related preliminaries. A weak tender program becomes a weak baseline, and a weak baseline undermines every future extension of time and prolongation claim. Section 2 is the letter of intent, or LOI. Sometimes the employer wants work to start before the full contract is executed, so they issue an LOI to the preferred contractor. It may authorize limited early activities, such as mobilizing key staff, procuring long lead materials, setting up the site, or enabling works, developing the design, or arranging insurances and guarantees. But here's the key point. An LOI should not automatically be treated as a complete construction contract. Its legal effect depends on its wording and the applicable contractual circumstances. Always check the scope, authorized, any value cap, the validity periods, and whether it is intended to be binding. Section 3. The letter of award or letter of acceptance, the LOA. This is the formal acceptance of the contractor's tender, and it usually leads to the contract agreement. The LOA often triggers key deadlines, such as the performance security, the program, and the insurances. It establishes the accepted contract amount and references the contract documents. So keep the distinction clear. An LOI is potentially limited early authorization and depends on its wording. An LOA is a formal award and acceptance of the tender, binding subject to the applicable contractual conditions. Section 4. The contract agreement. This is where the contract is formally documented. The contract is made up of several documents, typically the contract agreement itself, the letter of acceptance, the letter of tender, the particular conditions, the general conditions, the specifications or employer's requirements, the drawings, and the bill of quantities and schedules. These documents have an order of precedence, so that if two documents conflict, you know which one governs. The planning engineer must understand all of them, because your program, your payments, and your claims all live inside this contractual framework. Section 5. The performance bond and why the client requires it. A performance bond, or performance guarantee, is a contractual security intended to protect the employer against certain risks of contractor non-performance, subject to the exact wording of the guarantee and the contracts. Let's take an example. On a contract value of 100 million dirhams, with an example performance security of 10%, the performance bond would be 10 million dirhams. But let me be clear, that percentage is only an example. The actual requirement must be taken from the contract. The bond is usually issued by an employer-approved bank. It must stay valid through the contract and any extension, and it's released at a contractual milestone.
As planning engineer, do not allow the contractual validity to be overlooked while the project program is extended.
Section 6. Construction insurance and what the project team must monitor. Depending on the contract, typical policies include contractors' all risks, which covers the works and materials, third-party liability, workmen's compensation, cover for plant and equipment, professional indemnity, where there's design, and in the UAE, decennial liability for the structure. Now, an important distinction. Insurance transfers a defined risk to an insurer. A bank guarantee is on-demand security that the employer can call. They are not the same thing. And the practical point of construction continues beyond the original completion date. The project team must ensure the required insurance coverage remains valid for the extended period where the contract requires it. So watch the program extension against every policy expiry. Section 7. The advance payment and the advance payment guarantee. To help the contractor with mobilization and early procurement, the employer may make an advance payment secured by an on-demand advance payment guarantee. For example, on a 100 million dirham contract, with an example advance of 10%, the advance payment would be 10 million dirhams, and again, that percentage is only an example, it depends on the contract. The advance is then recovered by deduction from the interim payments. The guarantee reduces as the advance is repaid, and it must be fully recovered before final payment. The planning engineer's responsibility is to track the advance recovery against the project's certified payment history. Section 8. Materials on site, often called MOS, and how the contractor gets paid for them. There's an important difference between installed work and materials on sites. Installed work is concrete that's been poured, block work that's been built, MEP that's been fixed in position. Materials on site are reinforcements stored on site, cladding panels delivered, chillers, pipes and cables sitting in the store, not yet installed. Whether materials on site are payable all depends on the contract and its certification requirements. It is not automatic. Where they are payable, you'll typically need supporting documents, the purchase order, supplier invoice, delivery note, inspection, approval, test certificates, evidence of ownership, storage, photos, and measurements. Let's follow the MOS process and, crucially, the reconciliation. A purchase order leads to delivery, inspection, approved material, proper storage, measurements, and payment certification. Take an example. 500 tons of reinforcement are purchased. 200 tons are installed. 300 tons remain properly stored on site. If the contract permits MOS payment and all the requirements are satisfied, that 300 tons may be considered for certification. But here's the discipline. When material is installed, it becomes install works, and the previously certified materials on site value must be removed so that the same material is never paid twice. Reconcile it every single month. Section 9. The interim payment certificate, or IC, the monthly payment cycle. You start with the work executed, plus eligible materials on site, plus approved variations, plus any other contractually payable amounts. That gives the gross valuation. The engineer or consultant verifies it and issues the interim payment certificate. From that, you deduct retention, advance recovery, and any other contractual deductions to reach the net certified amount, which the employer then pays. Let's use illustrative figures. Work executed of 6 million plus materials on site of 2 million gives a gross valuation of 8 million. Deduct example retention of 400,000 and example advance recovery of 500,000, and the net before other deductions is 7.1 million. These figures are illustrative only. And remember, there are 3 different stages here: the contractor's application, the engineer's certification, and the employer's actual payment. Never treat them as the same things. Section 10. Retention. Retention is a portion of the certified payment withheld according to the contract as security for performance and defects. For example, on a certified amount of 5 million dirhams, with an example retention of 5%, the retention held would be 202 dirhams. Retention usually accrues up to a cap limit. The first half is typically released at taking over, and the second half at the end of the defects liability period. It may sometimes be substituted by a retention guarantee. As always, follow the actual contract for the retention percentage and the release conditions. Section 11. The notice to commence and mobilization. Before the project formally starts, the preconditions, the securities, and the insurance generally need to be satisfied. The engineer then issues the notice to commence, which sets the commencement date, and the contractor mobilizes. Mobilization means site handover and access, setting up offices, welfare and stores, hoarding and security, temporary works and utilities, survey and setting out, mobilizing staff and plant, establishing quality and safety systems, and kicking off procurement. And keep these terms distinct. The contract date, the notice to commence, and the commencement date are three different things, and the time for completion runs from the commencement date. Section 12. The baseline program, the planning the engineer's foundation. In Primavera P6, you establish the work breakdown structure and activity coding, a logic-linked critical path network activity, durations and calendars, resource and cost loading, the critical path and float, milestones and sectional completion, the procurement and submittal schedule, and a cash flow S-curve, along with your assumptions and qualifications. Once the engineer approves it, the baseline becomes the reference point for all progress measurement, forecasting, and delay analysis. From then on, you compare the baseline against the current update and the forecasts. Section 13. Construction and Contract Administration, the monthly project cycle. Each month you have construction progress measurement, a program update, payment variations, claims, extension of time, and an updated forecasts. You measure progress and update the program against the day-to-day. You value variations, you notice delay events in time, you assess extensions of time, and you build claims on cause and effect.
Suppose your baseline finish is the 30th of June 2027, but your forecast finish has slipped to the 30th of August 2027.
That 2-month slip is exactly what the planning engineer must investigate. So how do you investigate the delay? You trace it from the delay event to its cause, to its effect onto the critical path, then you establish responsibility, consider mitigation, assess the extension of time entitlement, and arrive at a revised completion date. And remember the golden rule from our other videos. Only a delay on the critical path, properly noticed and analysed through the program, supports an extension of time. The program is your proof, not assertion. And time and money are separate questions. An extension of time protects you from delayed damages, but cost only follows for compensable, contract-defined events. Section 14. Testing and Commissioning. As construction completes, you move into testing, then commissioning, authority inspections, snagging, final documentation, and finally taking over. This covers pre-commissioning checks, system testing, performance and functional tests, and authority inspections. In the UAE, that often means civil defence, JUA and other authorities. You clear the snag lists, prepare the operation and maintenance manuals and the as-built drawings, and obtain the commissioning certificates. In the UAE, authority approvals are frequently a precondition to taking over, so build them into the program early. Section 15. The Taking Over Certificate, the TOC. What exactly is it? Construction completion leads to testing and commissioning, snagging, authority approvals, inspection, and then taking over, which is confirmed by the TOC. It matters enormously because it marks substantial completion, transfers care and risk to the employer, starts the defects notification period, stops delay, damages occurring, may release the first half of retention, and triggers the final account process. But here's the key. TOC is not simply a certificate saying construction looks finished. The contractual requirements for taking over must be satisfied according to the applicable contract. Section 16. After TOC, the taking over certificate starts the defects notification period or defects liability period. During this time, defects are notified and rectified. Then comes a final inspection agreement of the final account, final payment, and the issue of the performance certificate or final completion certificate as applicable. At this point, the retention balance is released and the performance security is returned or expires. Only at final completion is the contract truly closed out, with all securities released and all accounts settled. Section 17. The planning engineer's master checklist, the whole life cycle on one screen. Track your contract data, the value, start, finish, and time for completion. Track your securities, the performance bond, the advance payment guarantee, the insurance, and all their expiry dates. Track your program, the baseline, the update, the forecast, the critical path, the milestones, and any extensions of time. Track the commercial side, the bulk, progress, materials on site, certified and actual payments, retention, advance recovery, variations, and claims. And track completion, testing, commissioning, authority approvals, snagging, TOC, the defects period, the final account, and final completion. One connected picture,